guys, this is Pakistani Pepper, aka Abdurrahman Siddiqui. I'm a high school teacher, Google certified educator, and doctoral student at Hunter College, where I study video game-based learning. With a lot of schools now having shifted to remote learning or distant learning via computer due to the COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of places are being required to do instruction over the internet for the first time. However, remote learning is fundamentally different from face-to-face instruction, and it's something that a lot of teachers have not been trained in. As a result, many teachers have questions, and some of the questions pop up more than others. So today, I'm going to try and answer 5 of the questions that I've seen the most regarding online instruction. Quick note, on my channel, there's a bunch of teaching tutorials using tech and some lighthearted comedy skits. If that appeals to your interests, consider subscribing. Now, here are 5 commonly asked questions about online learning right now. Number 1, how can I learn how to teach online? Teaching online is something that's relatively new. It started mostly in the 90s with the advent of the internet becoming more mainstream, but for a lot of teachers, they were never formally trained in how to teach online. So it makes sense that they're asking, how do I teach online? Well, there's a bunch of resources that you can use like Google Classroom, Zoom, and all those, but all of those are platforms you need to learn. Fortunately, if there is something that you need to learn, there is a YouTube tutorial for it. I always recommend type in how to do this, teacher tutorial, and you will always find a tutorial on that specific thing. You can watch tutorials at your own pace, and I actually recommend doing the thing they're saying by pausing the video and following along. If you happen to come across something that you cannot find online, please leave it in the comments below. If I can't find it, I would be more than happy to make a tutorial on it, or at least explain to you verbally if I can. Question number 2. Not all of my kids have computers. What should I do? So for a very long time now, some teachers are expecting to not see their students. That is because when their kids go home, a lot of the kids don't have computers. Well, first of all, there's a lot of online platforms that are actually compatible with cell phones. So students can technically interact if you know how to make those things more accessible. Google Forms, for example, is one of the most cell phone friendly formats. Longer essays are tough, but short answers can be done with typing. These are just some examples of tasks that can be done on the phone even if a student doesn't have a computer. Now, what if a student doesn't even have a phone, or has a phone but doesn't have reliable internet service? Well, at that point you might have to get a little creative. It is possible to mail things home, but that phase is already past for a lot of schools. So what you can do is speak with the student over the phone and then remind them to sign up for apps like the Remind app. This will allow them to text you work that they've handwritten without actually giving your number to them. Again, this requires some access to the internet, and remote learning is very difficult to do without the internet, but limited access to the internet is something that we can get around. Question number 3. Can't I just give them the same work that I did when we were in class? No, you can't. Some teachers I've seen are doing this where they're just basically digitizing their paper learning, and it's a substitutional style of learning for them. That okay, the students were reading a modest proposal, and now we're going to give them the text version of the modest proposal online, and voila, that's it. That will not work. Simply put, there is a reason teachers exist. They exist to make more difficult concepts accessible. When you're not actually there, you can't make a lot of those difficult concepts accessible. I'm not saying don't introduce rigor in your teaching, but what I am saying is that if you try to give something that is just as inaccessible without your assistance online, students will not be able to access it. So grading them on it at that point is just really, really unfair. So again, keep your work rigorous, keep your work involving critical thinking, but make your choice of texts, make your choice of assignments more accessible to your students. Quick note on accessibility. One of the biggest things that teachers are doing is that they're giving them the same deadlines that they did in class, if not more strict. So teachers are saying that they're assigning something at 8 a.m. and they're saying this is due by 3 p.m. Please don't do that. In class, students have to be in class at the specific time of day. When they're at home, they may have responsibilities, they may have limited access to computers, they may not even have access to the internet for extended periods of time. So keeping hard deadlines in remote learning just means you're setting your students up for failure. Be flexible in your deadlines. That is a big part of making sure that all of this is accessible. Remember, online learning is not a one-to-one substitute to teaching in place. Another note about this, please try to limit synchronous learning. What that means is where you are standing in front of a camera and you expect students to be there like they're in a lecture. Please try to limit that. I know live interaction is great and there's definitely a place for it, but it also places a lot of burden on students regarding resources that we technically have not provided them. Number 4, how should I manage all this? Originally, when you were in class, probably working with paper, you are used to getting typed papers once in a while. Now suddenly, you will have entire documents worth of paper digitally every single day. Checking it is difficult and it is time consuming. And for a lot of people, they don't work on the computer as quickly as they work in person with a pen in hand. So, for that reason, try to limit how much checking you do. Do check-ins with students instead of constant checking of work. What I mean with that is, let them have opportunities to fix their work, give them comments to upgrade their work, and then hand it in after some time has passed so that you have less to check and you can actually give them meaningful feedback without constantly having to revert to a grade. Remember, platforms like Google Classroom and tools like Google Docs allow you to leave comments for your students without actually immediately assigning them a grade. So begin with lower level comments that allow them to fix the errors before getting to the point where you're grading every single thing. And number 5, how do I do tests, attendance, etc.? There's this thing in teaching, unfortunately, where we have to do a lot of the things that we did while we were in class. And while I'm not going to go into the whole problem fundamentally with a lot of the things we do in education, attendance, tests, these kinds of things are necessary. So, regarding tests, there's a great tool for that right in Google Classroom, Google Quiz assignments, which you can do, and I'll link the tutorial below. And even attendance can actually be done with forms where students can sort of sign themselves in every single day. It's a great tool to keep students accountable, and it allows you to actually be able to mark their attendance without having to worry about who does and does not attend an assignment at any specific time. So, to sum up, follow the tutorials, give them mobile-friendly work, do frequent check-ins instead of constant grades, be flexible, and use all the tools at your disposal to make sure that you hold students accountable. And that's my quick advice to teachers regarding some of the more commonly asked questions regarding remote learning. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them in the comments below, and I'll address them to the best of my ability. And if content like this appeals to your interests, consider subscribing. This is Pakistani Pepper saying peace out, stay peppery, and don't forget, sometimes life's best lessons are in the stories we hear least. Have an awesome day, guys.